Hey, hey, happy Saturday. This is Mess to Masterpiece, y'all. This is us. It's been a while. It's been a few weeks, y'all. We sorry about that. We miss you all. Had a little technical difficulties with our software and things of that nature. But so glad to be back. Y'all pop on in here for just a sec. This is a different setting than what y'all normally used to. We on the move. We on the move this morning. But I wanted to pop in and just talk to y'all a little bit this morning. Because it's been so long. I can't see who's in here. I see I got some viewers, but I can't see who's in here. Comment in the comments and let me know who you are. Who you are.
Oh, yes.
I got some viewers that joined in this morning. Thank you so much for joining in. Y'all got to excuse me if I sound a little funny talking. I got retainers in, y'all. Got my braces taken off and I got retainers in. Sometimes I talk over them, between them. I don't know. They're a little bit challenging. So, hey, sis. Jessica online with me. Good morning. Good morning. It's been a minute. Jessica, you've been with us on this journey, so you know a little bit about what we've already talked about. Thank you for joining me. Who's my other person on here? Okay, I got 2 more people. I can't see who you are, guys, but thank you so much for joining this morning. Comment in the comments for me so I know who on here with me this morning. I see my sister in here. Got a couple of more people. Comment if you can so I can acknowledge you. And I think I'm getting a little bit of glare, y'all. I apologize if y'all getting that glare too. It's a nice day out, nice Saturday morning. Thank you all again for joining in with us. Listen, so we picking up where we left off, but our discussion topic today is new perspective. Pastor Murphy, thank you for joining in this morning. Glad you can get online with us this morning. Can you see?
Oh no, I couldn't.
Okay.
I couldn't see it, but
so new perspective, y'all. New perspective. That's what we talking about today. We talking about our new perspectives. If you've been on this Mess to Masterpiece journey with us for any length of time, we've shared with you all some of the challenges and difficulties that we've had to overcome within the marriage, and we grabbed hold of this concept based on the scriptures, how they say that we overcome the enemy by the blood of the Lamb and by our testimonies. So even though we had challenging moments within our marriage, we chose to share them with others. One, because we want to overcome the enemy. Okay, and so and so we chose to share our testimony so that we can encourage other married couples, through their challenges. And so, if you're going through challenges for any length of time, a lot of times it begins to affect you mentally, emotionally, spiritually, even physically sometimes.
yeah.
And so one of the things that we gained out of being faced with those challenges is we've gained new perspective. Now, here's the thing, because in the midst of those challenges, it wasn't even, we just had the perspective of just simply, man, I'm in the midst of a challenge.
Right.
That was the perspective. Looking at that challenge and where we were mentally in the midst of it, we had at that moment really no clear vision or ideal of what it would have birthed, which was new perspective. And so the challenges that we go through them for different reasons. They build character, they build our faith, and they give us they give us new perspective. They make and they mold us, into who we are, how we think, and things of that nature. But as believers of God, what I'm finding out is that our perspective of things and our view of things should always be based on the Word of God. And so one of the things that I discovered, after going through different challenges and having to live beyond those challenges, is I had to take it upon myself to say, hey, I need to gain a new perspective of this thing. And the only way I'm going to change my perspective of this marriage, of this relationship, of my husband, of myself, is I'm going to have to meet the already challenged mind with the new perspective mind. And that was word concerning this challenge or this situation or whatever happened. And so one of the scriptures that I related to was 2 Corinthians 4, verse 8 and 9. It says, we are pressed on every side by troubles, but we are not crushed. We are perplexed, but not driven to despair. We are hunted down, but never abandoned by God. We get knocked down, but we are not destroyed. And this scripture spoke so clearly to me because that's how I felt in the midst of the challenges. I felt there was trouble on every side. I was perplexed even some days because I'm like, man, what is going on? Why is this happening? I'm so confused. I had all these questions and all these what all these questions. I was just like, what is up? What is happening?
Like, what's going on?
I felt attacked even some days.
You ever feel attacked?
I felt overwhelmed and yes, literally knocked down sometimes. But in all of that, I wasn't crushed. I wasn't driven to despair. I wasn't abandoned by God, even though I felt like it. But I wasn't abandoned by God, and I wasn't destroyed. So talking back, this was one of the things that gave me new perspective to begin with, and that was that talking back principle. Remember, I told you we gained that principle going through marriage counseling, but the talking back principle, talking back to birth with my husband, it caused me to see things differently, because I now had a different perspective on why he operated the way that he did. While I did not condone, the actions that took place, I now understood why they took place. I now had an understanding, which allowed me to handle things better, respond differently. It allowed me to operate in a different grace and enabled me to have compassion and even, forgive. So gaining that new perspective of him, through that talking back principle, it helped me to be able to pray for him. It helped me to be able to speak well of him, and to even love him and do good beyond his flaws. You know what I mean? And so I think we were about at maybe the 6th year in our marriage. And I can remember we were,
up to the 6th year,
we were coming up to the, hey Sherry, thanks for joining in. We were coming up to our 6-year anniversary or whatever, and we had like this dinner scheduled or whatever. I was supposed to go to dinner with my husband one night, but I was still at that point in a place of just wanting to move on and just start my life anew. And so I asked myself, man, why am I even going out to celebrate? It seems so pointless. But the reality of the situation was there was a milestone to celebrate, because I had made it to year 6. I had made it alive. I had made it through to the other side. I had made it through all the disappointments, all the heartaches, all the tears, and I had fought without giving up, even though there were times that I wanted to. But God never promised us that we would be exempt from troubles.
Right.
But instead, he said, no weapon formed against us shall prosper. And Jesus said, in this life, we will experience trials and we will experience tribulation, but we can be of good cheer because he had robbed it of its ability to harm us. So this is what I'm saying, y'all, when I'm saying get new perspective. You know what I mean? I know sometimes I'm human, y'all human, you know what I mean? And sometimes it's hard to operate in these things when you're experiencing those human emotions. It can be difficult. I'm not saying it's easy at all, y'all, but I'm just telling y'all, this is what God's word tells us. When we up against these troublesome times or whatever like that, you know what I mean? We're not exempt from them things. We go through those things as believers just like anybody else. And so James said to count it all joy when we experience many troubles, because perseverance is being built. Remember, I talked about going through those challenges or whatever like that, characters being built, faith is being strengthened, things of that nature. It says perseverance is being built. And that's the persistence in doing something despite difficulty or delay of achieving success. So perseverance is being built, and we're maturing. The scriptures also say many are the afflictions of the righteous, but God delivers them out of them all. And so remember I told y'all about I mentioned in one of the prior videos about gaining perspective of who God is in the season that you're in. The scripture says it's a season, it's a time for everything. But as believers, I believe that if we gain the right perspective of the season we in and who God is in that season to us, then we can kind of go through the seasons with a little bit more ease. So yeah, it says, many are the afflictions of the righteous, but God delivers them out of them all. Yes, I had trouble in my marriage. Listen, for me, I felt it was from day one. Trouble on every side. Sometimes I really was perplexed, but I kept hope for the best. The enemy was in hard pursuit of our marriage and our family, and I just felt like I couldn't take another blow, but I realized that everything that we had faced, it really did not destroy us. It didn't put an end to our existence, y'all. We still here. What's this, 7 years going on 8 in March? Woo-wee. This thing is a lifetime, baby. And so all of what I originally came to the conclusion is that all of what God said in his word had proven true. It had proven true.
It's so funny you talking to that thing.
I'm sorry. I told y'all I got these retainers on, so excuse me.
Well, at least you finally got the braces on.
Sucking my teeth and whatnot. I hope y'all can't hear that, but so yeah, I've seen a lot of things in my marriage, that produce uncertainties for me. But during the period of separation from my husband, I realized one of the things I had to gain a new perspective on as well is that I realized what the separation was doing to like it, how it was affecting people around us. So it wasn't just affecting us, but it was affecting other people around us. Like we got children involved. You know what I mean? And so I realized what the separation was, the effect that it was having on my son. You know what I mean? He still desired to be, at daddy's house most days. For him, daddy's house is where he was from birth and all he knew. You know what I mean? And so even in that situation, that was difficult for me because I had to realize that my experience with, his dad was not his experience. You know what I mean? His reality was completely different from my experience. And I couldn't allow myself to, what's the word, deflect? Reflect my pain, on him. And so, I had to get to the place where that circumstance kind of just pushed me to pray for my husband and to trust God, And I'm saying all this because at this point in our marriage, this was at a point where I saw my husband in a different perspective. You know what I mean? I saw my husband at the time as a man with no backbone, a man who lacked in the area of how to be a good husband, how to be a father, a man with poor judgment, a man with wrong priorities, which made me wonder about the well-being, of our kids, And so I prayed that my husband will become simply just the man God created him to be. Because if he could walk in that very image, then everything else would just fall into place. You know what I'm saying? I prayed that the relationship between my husband and, my son would be just as meaningful and purposeful and genuine as I desire his relationships to be with anybody else. And then I just had to let things go and I had to get out the way, And it wasn't much longer before I began to see, things to begin to turn around, And so I had several wrong perspectives about things because of the challenges faced. And like I said, if you go through them for any length of time, they begin to play on your mind. They begin to play on your emotions. You know what I mean? And so I was at one place before, in God, where I was constantly praying and hopeful and and things of that nature for my marriage, but the challenges had gone on for so long, in my mind, far too long, that it wasn't even, I wasn't even at the place where I just didn't believe God could fix it. I had just got to a place where I just didn't want him to fix it. But I shared the many different challenges that I had, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, just to let you all know that when you gain new perspective of things, when you gain, as believers, God's perspective of things, then you can kind of maneuver through things a little bit more smoother. And I'm currently now reading a book by John Bevere, and it says, it's called God, Where Are You? And this book talks about these type of challenges, and it calls it the wilderness experience. And so it helps you identify when we're in that wilderness experience, and what our posture and our behavior should be in that wilderness experience. And it talks about us praising, and it talks about us praying, and it talks about us what's the word I'm looking for?
Well, he was talking about, he also said that where he tried to he basically was like,
can y'all hear him?
Can y'all hear me? I'm sorry. He was just talking about how in the book where he was like, okay, God, where are you trying to get me to?
Yeah, so he talks about identifying that you're in that wilderness, but understanding that when you're in that wilderness point, it's not because God has left you. God is with you, and he promised to never leave us or to forsake us. So he's with you, but there's a posture you ought to have in that wilderness experience, because he's trying to now at this point cultivate something in you to get you to that promised land. And he references the story of I always forget, is it the Israelites? Who is it that's in the wilderness for
the people of Israel?
40 years? 40 years.
The people of Israel, wasn't it?
Yeah, he delivered them from Egypt, and they were in the wilderness for 40 years. So he likens it to that story. And they were complaining, they were grumbling, they were almost to the point where they just was like, we would rather go back and be in bondage and be in slavery, you know what I mean? But God had called them into that wilderness to build different characters in them. He wanted to build relationship with them. He wanted to be closer with them. He wanted to them to trust him, and so it's not a strange place, even though to us in our mind it seems strange. You seem alone, you seem forsaken, abandoned, and all these other things. And but when you're in that place, if you notice, because I've been there before, and I'm like, man, I should call such and such and maybe talk through this, and then something just tells me like, no, don't do that. You know what I mean? And I could have just been creating things in my own head, but I'd be like, okay, well, no. Or you'll be in that particular area, and it just seems like everybody is just unavailable, or nobody can be reached at the moment. Everybody doing something, nobody got time for you, or whatever like that. Those are the moments. Or you don't even feel like people understand where you at mentally, emotionally, spiritually. Those are those moments where it's like, talk to me. God is like, talk to me. Don't call such and such. Talk to me. And so there's something he's trying to build in you in that season, so that he can take you over into that promised land, so that you can experience the manifestations of all the promises he has for you. You know what I mean? And so I just wanted to share that with you all. New perspective. As the believer, what is God saying to you about your challenge? What is God saying to you about your situation? What is God saying? Get the word on what God says about that challenge. Because if you can cultivate or spend time with what God says in this season concerning your situation, man, your relationship with him is getting ready to go to a new level. I can remember praying a prayer once, and I'm like, God, every time I'm in your presence, whether it's in your word, whether it's in praise and worship, whenever I'm in your presence, reveal yourself to me in a new facet, because there's so many different facets to him. You know what I'm saying? And I can testify now that I know him on so many different levels for myself. I have revelation knowledge of who he is in different levels versus communicated knowledge. You know what I mean? I don't have to go off what other or who other people say that he is. I can go off of who I know him to be, the healer. You know what I'm saying? The restorer, the provider.
The mind
you know what I mean?
renewer,
The mind renewer. Like these are things that I can testify about on my own for myself. You know what I'm saying? So just understand and identify. Okay, I'm in my wilderness place right now, God. But what is it you're trying to build in me? What is it you're trying to cultivate? What characteristics are you trying to strengthen me in?
Build me up.
So that I can possess the promised land. So that I can possess the peace or the joy or whatever it is I need at this moment to be a better me in you. You know what I mean? And for your glory. You know, there were times where we were going through certain challenges. One of the things that I love, like I told y'all before, I experienced God as the healer in two different manifestations, like healing in my body and then healing in like my mind and my heart, because my heart was devastated. You know what I mean? And it was a pain that felt like I just couldn't come back from it. You know what I mean? And but now I sit and I'm riding home some days and I'm like, man, if I ever had to go through pain again, I know how to address it. I know that God draws nearer. I know that God is closer to me now than he ever was before in the midst of pain, because his word declares that he draws near to the brokenhearted, to heal their broken hearts and to bind up all their wounds. I understand that God promised to be a God to me, and that he will help me, and that he will strengthen me, and that he will uphold me with his victorious right hand. So now I look at pain, I'm like, man, I was just thinking this in the car the other day on the way home. I'm like, I don't know if there's a pain now at this point that I wouldn't be able to overcome, because he brought me through a pain that I once viewed I wouldn't even ever be able to come back from. You know what I'm saying?
So revelation.
Yeah. So gaining new perspective, y'all, it's necessary. It's necessary, but like I said, as the believer, for believers, that new perspective is God's way. God's way. Knowing what God says about your challenge and identifying who he is in your wilderness season. Who is he trying to be to you in this season? What facet of himself is he trying to reveal to you in this season? You know what I mean?
And also, whatever he's trying to build up in you, may be the key to someone else's victory.
Oh, absolutely. Because we don't go through what we go through just for our. The scriptures declare that God comforts us so that we may comfort others in their time of need with that same comfort that we were comforted with.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
It almost is like, how with your in your moment, because you don't know whose life, of course, to yourself, you don't want to go through it.
Yeah.
But you have to realize that, okay, there's someone else that I can help along the way.
That's absolutely true.
Even while I'm going through the midst of whatever I'm going through, I can help somebody.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we don't always just go through what we're going through just for ourselves. There's people attached to us. There's people that we'll meet in our future. You know what I mean? And there's just places that we need to be so that we can manifest God's word in their life. And so did you want to say anything else?
No, I'll probably go on a little bit later, because there's some other stuff. We just wanted to kind of get on here because we haven't been on in a while.
Yes.
And I think we're both kind of full of some things that we probably need to get out. But
I hope y'all can hear him. Give me a thumbs up if y'all can hear him.
But I'll probably come on a little bit later on to because we do have some questions that we also have to answer, and then I'll let you guys get a glimpse of my perspective, whereas my new perspective came, whereas my wife's perspective came throughout the whole entire marriage, whereas mine came at the latter part of our marriage, where I had to get a new perspective of my marriage, and my wife. So I'll come on later and I'll talk that with you guys.
Okay, so I hope y'all heard that. Did y'all hear Brian? He talking from the driver's seat.
Yeah.
Thumbs up if you heard him. So yeah, I like I said, you know, we masterpiece we on the move today, but it's been so long and we had so much trouble with our software.
You know, this.
So we just wanted to pop in and give y'all a little something. So I hope that helped you all today. So you got a few tools to walk away with today. Gain a new perspective. What is that new perspective? God's way, God's word, what it says concerning your challenge. Identifying who He is in this season and embracing that. And when we come back, our next session, I wanna hear, only if you're comfortable, your spouse is comfortable, I wanna hear that new perspective worked for you. Mm-hmm. Okay, I want to hear some of your testimonies. You share what you're comfortable with, Shara. But
should we bring some people on the video too? We can do that if you
if y'all want to come in on the live or be on the video to share, that's fine too. Or you could just drop your comments in there about gaining new perspective and where you are with that perspective versus where you've come from with the old perspective. Let me hear your testimonies. You know what I mean? Also, don't forget to follow us on our page all week long. There's different quotes and different tools and wisdom knowledge. It's a lot of participation. So share with us on our page. Also, if you have questions or whatever, you all know you can message us, inbox us differently. And every time we get on, we like to start our videos usually with addressing those questions. All right, so we'll be back soon. Enjoyed you all this morning. Thanks again for joining in with us. And I really hope somebody got what they needed today. We'll see y'all soon. Have a good day.